So today we're talking about all things moms and being a group practice owner slash therapist slash entrepreneur, all the mental load that goes with that. And, I don't think that this episode has to be just for moms either. I think it can be for dads too. I mean, dads certainly these days carry so much more than I saw dads in the past for sure. And so it's meant to be, I think, more just a nod to the general mental load that we carry as parents and as practice owners, and just the unique burnout that takes place when you're constantly trading your time for money with people, right? And you're serving them, and then you're serving your family on the outside. And where is that break for you throughout the day?
I'm still coming to consciousness after first day of school drop off. I've got my big mug of coffee here. Um,
Great segue. This is a real
well,
life example, right?
yeah, I mean, that was the focus this morning was, getting lunches packed and everybody in their back to school outfits and got to snap those pictures before we get in the car. And
Yeah.
um, I dropped one off at middle school and one off at elementary school. Um, Braved the packed playground to find the fifth grade line, and here I am at my office.
And what you're experiencing right now is a reality of what we do every day, which is this like code switching. I think that's what they call it. It's like
Yeah.
you're you're in mom mode, and it's an entirely different area of the brain. You're trying to be present. It's this instinctual place of like nurturing, caring, making sure your kids are safe and their well-being's good. So you're like in this place that uses a different part of the brain. And then you're coming into this podcast, which is something that you're trying to do for yourself, for your business. And you got to have this like cohesive presentation for people, right? Where you're trying to wrap up what this thing is. And I find myself doing that all day long, this code switching. Now, even more so since we work from home post COVID is like I'll be looking at a P&L, and it's not the funnest thing in the world. And you're like, where is that? And why is it like that? And then I've got my son that comes in and he's like, Mom, is it true everything's bigger in Texas?
It's
Mom,
probably
can you
true.
just real quick tell me about crypto? Just real quick. And you're trying to not, and you're constantly feeling guilty because I always think of that Maya Angelou quote that the best gift a parent can give their child is to watch their faces light up when they enter the room.
Yeah.
And I always like try to do that when my kids come in the room, is like, oh, hi, hey. But it's so hard because your mind is running a mile a minute all day long, and you want them to feel important, but it's too much.
I call that identity whiplash
Mm,
because I feel like one day or one morning, you have your clinic, you're in clinician mode, maybe you're seeing clients, and then by lunch, you're in CEO mode and you're in meetings. And then at 3 p.m., you're in the pickup line and you're in mom mode. And although, it's very jarring, it really is to like switch from one to another. And I know we get better at it as time goes on, but I think the skills definitely overlap, but they definitely clash.
hmm
Clinician mode, you're trying to be empathetic and present, and CEO mode, you're trying to be decisive and you're trying to delegate. And then mom mode, you're trying to nurture and stay calm and everyone's melting down.
hmm
But the switching of hats is exhausting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was just talking about in terms of you know, getting the kids to school hat. And now I'm here with the podcast hat on my head, a
hmm
new one.
Yeah. And when you look at what we do as therapists, the unique piece about our field is that if you are still in that grind of seeing 25 to 30 patients a week, you're not getting anything else done. You're
Right.
not, anybody else that works 40 hours a week, there's a moment where they go into their office and they sip a hot coffee all the way through and they can get back to an email. They can schedule their kid's dentist appointment. There is none of that when you're in session. You are fully and completely attended to that patient, right? And so those 30 hours are gone. And I think that is now more than ever why it's so important for us to figure out how to get off the chair in that sense, right? At least partially. How do you make money? How do you leverage your expertise in a way that you can make money while you're at your kids' school show that apparently everybody likes to do at 10 a.m. now in the middle of the workday?
Right. I felt like I was winning this year because I carefully looked at the school newsletters to find the back to school night times to carve those out, make sure they were in my calendar so that I didn't double book myself, because that's been historical. Something that I've done is double book a client or a work event or something else with back to school night. And ultimately, back to school night needs to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it can be tough to keep track of so many different schedules. And particularly when you are seeing clients, like you're saying, Colleen, back to back, there's hardly 5 minutes to take a breath, take a sip of water,
Mm-hmm.
you know, take a small break, and then, check in on potentially any phone calls or voicemails or emails you've missed related to what's happening with your kids.
Right. Well, and I'm just thinking about, we've got a book fair this week. And so, of course, they want all the parents to take a shift. And I want to take a shift. I want my kids to have that moment where they walk into their library and they see me there and they're like, oh my God, my mom's here. And I wanted that so badly when I was a kid. And I just didn't have the benefit of that because my mom was a single mom and she couldn't just stop working. Um, but those things take time. And there's a unique piece of when you work for yourself as a therapist, and if you are still trading that time for money, let's say on average you get $150 an hour. Then if I have to go to my kids' school play from 10 to 12 to learn about the history of California, um, I got to get there and I got to come back. So that's 3 hours. That play cost me $450, right? And
Right.
so thinking about it in those terms, it's even more imperative that when you're a mom, especially in the season of life, if your kids are younger and they need more engagement, to figure out how to build a freedom practice that doesn't require you to be in that chair all the time. I guess I would ask you guys, I mean, we're all sort of that entrepreneur type. And I don't know if this happens for you all, but I get ideas like at a hypomanic level pretty much every day about things I want to do. And unfortunately, I act on a lot of them. Um, and so I think for the longest time, I felt like, well, I'll just get everything all set with my practice. Like I'll just make sure that the flywheel is created and that we've got this good system in place. And then I'll get to all these creative pursuits that I want to do. And the reality is, I woke up at 45 and was like, I haven't done any of the things that I've wanted to do. I've done everything that I have had to do. And so, what it looked like for me for a long time in carving out these areas of passive income streams is a lot like, if you guys seen that movie, Shawshank Redemption,
Mhm.
where Andy is like, he's carving out that little hold of freedom behind the poster every day, and he just works on it a little bit every day. I felt like to carve out these little paths of freedom for ourselves as moms or even single parents, and you're running a practice and you're seeing, 25 to 30 patients a week. how do you break free from that? How do you at least get off the chair partially? And it's a lot like that analogy in Shawshank Redemption where he's slowly carving that hole over time. That's what I found myself doing, which was I would naturally gravitate towards these things I love to do anyways, which is the social media, the creative stuff, the Etsy passive income products, the writing, creative writing, and you just have to do it. And they talk about eating the frogs first. It's like first thing in the morning, that's when my brain is the quickest, the freshest. And those are the moments where I could just buzz through and finish a bunch of reports. But I'm going to take that time to do those Hail Marys, those things that maybe don't even feel like they're making a drop in the bucket right now. But like this podcast, it's all about reps for us, right? And we're talking into the ethersphere. We don't know. There's probably my mom's listening and that's about it. But that's where it starts, right? You just keep on doing it until it becomes old hat. And so I think that's, at least in my experience, has been really hard to do those things for yourself, carve out that little freedom path when no one else sees it. Nobody else would feel it if you stopped doing it. And your life is really about serving your clients and then serving your family.
I think a big part of being a mom is the invisible load that we all carry, right? There's such a heavy load of remembering all those invisible tasks, such as like schedules and birthdays and homework deadlines and sports and doctor's appointments, right? I'm sure you guys feel that all the time.
Oh, the level of dings. I just have to turn do not disturb on during the day because you've got Bloom, Talk Points, Team Snap, Game Changer. You've got ding, ding, ding all day long. And for me with 3 kids and some in 2 different activities, and then you have a constant text thread all day long where they're like, I'll bring this. We should get this teacher this thing. We should do. And as involved as my husband is, God bless him, he's not dealing with Venmo and trying to get the teachers gifts and it's teacher appreciation week and you got to drop off lunch and all of that. And so there's just such level of decision fatigue and code switching. What did you call it, Jen? It's like the bandwidth. You have to just move.
It's like identity whiplash. I feel like you're like putting on a different hat. Yeah.
Yes. And it's maddening. I feel like in the 80s, the parents just like went to work and there was no like text thread, game snap. You just literally like went to your kid's school. I don't even know that my parents knew where my school was, or like who my teacher was or what grade I was in. Literally, I took a bus, went and came back. And like now it's just such a child-centric culture that we live in. I think we're trying to compensate for the wrongs of the past and we love this, but there's gotta be a cultural correction here soon because this is like too much.
It's way too much. And we're not giving kids, I think, ultimately the independence they need and deserve to thrive. I find like you have that other end of the spectrum where some parents are so over involved in every aspect for their kids that you're not giving them space to grow and skin their knee and get back up again on their own. Like we're here as parents, of course, we're always here and we want to be present, but we don't have to be hovering.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we have to let go of the idea that our kids are going to emerge unscathed as adults in their therapy session. They're going to talk about something that we did wrong. There's just no getting around that.
100%. I feel like we all know that's going to happen. I feel like, as therapists, I feel like we're like, okay, we know, it's almost like horrible the amount of stuff we know. It almost like makes us probably worry more so about our kids.
Absolutely.
We know that like X, Y, and Z can happen. But then on the flip side, you kind of release. I feel like I released. It's like, okay, everyone's going to end up, if all my kids end up in therapy, they end up in therapy. It is what it is, right?
Well, and that's such a great attitude. I've only come to that conclusion recently, which is like, I think of that Maria Shriver quote where she says, you can have it all, you just can't have it all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm only now, I'm at 45 and I'm just now realizing you simply cannot have it all. Like you cannot be a balanced present mom and then be a leader of a company and live in Orange County, California, where it's not cheap and you've got to pay a mortgage and all of the other stuff that comes with it. And so, uh, I'm really struggling with trying to give myself grace and figuring out how to choose my hard. Something's going to be hard, something's got to give. So, like, what is that going to be?
Yeah, I feel similarly in the, DC metropolitan area where I live. There are a lot of demands on us as professionals, and then also, on our kids if to kind of perform in the way that the schools want them to, and to keep up with all the activities and sports. And, you know, of course, we want to see them be well-rounded people. I also have had the experience here that parents schedule their kids in therapy like another additional after school activity.
Hmm.
Yep.
um, I mean, and in therapy, we can look at it from the viewpoint of like mental health maintenance and support, right? Like it's good for all of us. But it's so interesting how it's kind of scheduled like another, like Monday you have soccer, Tuesday you have debate club, and Wednesday you have therapy.
Hmm.
you know, it's a different kind of making sure your kid is in like good hands, taken care of and supported, and being developed on in all the ways that you want to see them developed. Um, just something I've noticed here in DC.
Well, and I'll say my boys fight like Mortal Kombat. They just are, I mean, at this point, sibling rivalry is an understatement. And of course, as a therapist, I go, all right, well, I'm going to just do some couples therapy with them and I'll like, carve out the time. So then you become the therapist then for your child
Yes.
too, because you're like,
Yes.
well, I know how to do this. I'm not going to outsource it to someone. We'll talk about emotional regulation and green zones and all that kind of, and then I'm like, no, I'm not going to be my kid's therapist. But if I don't take the time to make sure that they're working on their relationship, it's only harder for me later because it's all day long of refereeing. And so
Mhm.
um I have found, and even when I'm working with parents, they're like, yeah, like everything sounds really good. We're like, you should use this tool called Mightier and Endeavor. And they're like, great, great. But like, when do you do that? So you do kind of have to schedule and carve out these moments. And for the boys, I mean, I joke, but they literally are in couples therapy. And there's a therapist that works with them. And every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m., they're on there and I make them prepare and they're, ready to go, and they hate it. They don't want to keep on going. But I'm like, then get along better and we'll stop. But again, another thing that I'm facilitating, I'm in there going, all right, guys, let's take 10 minutes before therapy and think about what we're going to talk about in therapy. Let's not waste the first 20 minutes trying to remember what we wanted to talk about. And like, what did we work on last time? So like you're just constantly on in everything.
You're constantly on. Your
Yep.
mind is never off.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And honestly, even comparing it to our practices, there's there's still an invisible load there as well that goes on. Like remembering all the little minutia of what goes on. When are the staff anniversaries?
Hmm.
Your mind is always going. You're like, wait a second, did I pay that bill? Wait, what happened with this? Oh, I have this great idea. So
Yeah.
they're very similar. It's like that, the invisible load of being a business owner, but it's also being a mom.
Yeah. And I feel like there's moms that they're calling when they have kids. They're like, I don't want to work. Like I do not, I would be upset if I was working. I want to be with them 100%. And I don't fault them for that. I think that's amazing. And if that's what they're wanting to do, now it's different if someone's like, "Ooh, I don't want to work, so I'll stay home with the kids." That's different. But I know moms personally who they're just like, I'll figure out work later. Like, I really want this time to be with the kids. I think that's awesome. I don't have that mommy mom in me, unfortunately. I wanted to be that mommy mom. I wanted to be like in the carpool line, like, what do you want guys want to make cookies? But I can't. I literally like I try to be present and then I find myself like thinking about a new idea and jotting it down. And like what do you guys where have you guys come to terms with in terms of the type of mom you are?
Well, I think we probably all know the good enough mother theory. That we don't have to be perfect. We just need to be good enough. So I don't know that it's constant, protracted attention and intensity with kids as much as it is, having those really good bonding moments when they come up or when you can have the time to do it. And those are like transitional objects for our kids. They can take those forward into their days all day and, think back to those moments when they're maybe stressed or missing us and think, oh, I have a good mom. She's shows up for me when I need her. But I think the reality is no one can be 100% on all the time for their children.
Mm-hmm.
And, another anecdote from this morning, as I'm walking my son up the street to school, I'm, sensing he's a little bit nervous and we're about to walk into this, mass of people and find his teacher. So I was, reminding him of how a couple weeks ago we floated down a river on tubes together. And, I was giving him those sensory and mindfulness cues, how relaxing it was and how much fun we had together. And he's like, Mom, you're so weird. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm weird. I accept it. And then I just kind of clammed up, because apparently he needed some quiet in that moment. And I can respect that. But, I've
How old
really
is
hung
your
on.
son?
He's 10.
Yeah.
Um, so, I think we have a lot of tools up our sleeves from being therapists that we want to offer, but the our children have to be willing to follow us down that
Mm-hmm.
path together.
Yeah.
I think sometimes they actually really, I'm sure there's other opportunities where, of course they don't want you to say something, therapy, put your therapist hat on. But then on the flip side, they do probably come to you, Erica, or your son will come to you when he's feeling a certain way, knowing he's going to get that out of you, therapist mom.
Yeah, I think so. That they know I'm a therapist, and I think I can tell they appreciate the emotional connection that they can have with me. But I think for me, it's important to give that to them on their terms, like when they're seeking it, be available. And, okay, so we don't want to take a walk, down memory lane today and think about our fun bonding moment on the river. But, there will be another time that he'll bring that up and be like, huh, that was an interesting experience we had.
So it's just meeting him where he's at, It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, he had a probably he was doing a brain rot. Have you guys heard of that game yet?
Yeah.
It's
I
literally
haven't.
brain rot. Oh my god, it's wild. My kids are screaming, "I got a Cocofonte Belafonte." I don't even know what it is, and that'll be a whole other episode, right? It's just screens and the battles that we have with that. But it's I think like you said, it Erica, it's like you want to connect and bond with your kids, but it's also like the timing of being able to meet them when they're ready to connect and bond, which doesn't always line up sometimes.
And maybe that partly was me today, thinking it would be so nice to be back on that river instead of having to walk into this crowd of people
Yes.
Yeah.
on a Monday morning first thing. But, that's
Yeah.
life.
One thing that I have been able to do since the kids were little, and I used to try to do date nights and it was just ridiculous and stupid, but I have always allowed the kids to have one night in our room. And I think, you know, some people are like, no, 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 like no kids in your room. But every other week now, they have each have a night. And then that night is their night. They get to take a bath in our fancy bath and they get to like watch a movie and we watch a show together and it's just them. And that has been a really nice hack for me to know like we're going to have that one-on-one time. It's always there. And it's at the end of the day, so I can't think anyway. So it's like I put everything down and I can like just connect with them on whatever thing that they're watching. But that has been really good because I think, like you said, Erica, it's like you're ready to connect sometimes and they're doing something completely different. And then you just kind of miss the mark. And so being able to carve that out is sometimes the way to do it.
That's actually been pretty hard for me recently, having two teens. So
Mm-hmm.
I have been very creative in my ways of connecting with them because when they were younger, it was great. We could do a date night or we go out to the diner with mom, or you rotate who's doing something with you. And with a 15-year-old and almost 14-year-old, I have to meet them where they're at. And sometimes that is after my bedtime, late at night, when I don't want to stay up, longer, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stay up super late and watch this movie with them. And I'm going to get creative. And they wanted to go jump on the trampoline at 10 p.m. at night. It's like the last thing that maybe I really wanted to do, but
Oh,
I will go do it because,
wow.
I had an invitation to do it. So I'll take my chance.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's nice. That's really
Yeah.
nice. I don't think I'm that nice. That's great. Yeah. I mean, those are the moments you got to take when you can. Well, and
Yeah.
I don't want to belabor, I guess, the realities of where we're at, but I do think it's important to drive home what a unique time we're in combined with what a unique field we're in, right? So like as we're talking, you can already hear how different it is to I completely lost my train of thought. Sorry, I got 4 messages from soccer and then game changer and Izzy's flag football starting tonight and my clinical director can't make our meeting.
There you go. That's a nice tie-in.
There you
There you
go.
go. That's
All right. Code shift. What was I
Yeah.
talking about? Crushing realities right now. Yeah. So I don't want to, my goal is to not make this about, all doom and gloom. So not to belabor the point about just the realities of where we are, but I think as you guys are talking, not only do we live in a very bizarre time where post COVID we're at home and you can work anywhere. That's the good news. The bad news is you can work anywhere and at any time. And so the lines become blurred and there is no off. And there's great technology that's changing every day that allows us to be even more efficient and busy up our time even more. And as parents carrying that mental load and practice owners, there's never a day where you check off your box, your to-do list and you go, I'm all done. Like it's always there. And so the thing that I want to just try to drive home and have people feel maybe seen is that we do live in a strange time. And I don't know if this is California or this is the zeitgeist of the time that we're in, but I can't find a babysitter. I don't know if it's because the parents are like, don't work right now. I just want you to focus on your studies. I'll just give you money. I don't know if it's because kids now can like create a TikTok channel and make millions of dollars. So like, why would you ever babysit for $20 an hour? But like, we can't find help. And so we have it takes a village and we don't have a village. We don't even have like our family help. So I think that's the other piece is that parents are really struggling to find good help, good childcare. And then just the constant child-centric focus that we have now in 2025 of our kids wanting them, we just want them so badly to have the lives that maybe we didn't have or better lives, right? And so you've got, I mean, at least at our school, we've got donuts with dad, pancakes with pappy, marmalade with mom. Like, and it's not like come at 5 p.m. It's like 10 to 2, and then we'll do an early out. What? Stuff, it's
Yeah,
impossible.
it is. I'm actually happy. I'm, with my youngest going into middle school in 2 weeks. I'm out of that elementary zone where everything was during the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think you can have it all, but just not all at the same time. And the big key, I think, for our listeners would be to one, identify what it is you're even doing this for. Are you working simply because you think you have to, because you went through school all those years and like you might as well, but your heart is really at home with your kids? And maybe you look at this as a seasonal shift of like, maybe you take some time back and focus on them. Or is it that you feel pressure from the moms that are more visible at school and you don't see all the working moms? You only see yourself, but yet you love what you do. Like for me, what I do is not work. It's truly, I enjoy doing what I'm doing. And so I think identifying what it is you like first and why you're doing what you're doing. And if you truly are in alignment with the thing that your heart fuels, then giving yourself grace in those parts that you're just not going to be great at right now and putting those blinders on.
Yeah, I agree. And at the end of the day, we just have to be the best mom that we know we can be for our kids. And that's different. And we shouldn't compare ourselves to other moms.
Yeah. Well, and what a gift it is to your kids to be able to see you, especially if you're like, if the message is, oh, I got to work again today, that's not great. But if you're like, I get to do this thing, my
Yeah.
kids came in here and they saw this whole setup and they're like, oh, you're recording. Like, that's cool. And they're really excited about that thing. And they know I'm really excited about it. And so hopefully that carries into for them that they
Yeah.
find something that they're really excited about. And, whatever that is. My daughter currently wants to live on a farm and sell eggs. So I don't really know that it's doing its job with her.
That sounds great to me.
Listen, it sounds very relaxing. I don't know that it's practical in California. I'm like, how are you going to afford to live anywhere?
Well, I think it's really healthy for kids to see that you love your work and that you want to do it. And I hope that's what my kids see in me as well. And I will sometimes remind them, like, you want those Robux? Well, mom's got to work and do her job. And, you want those good meals I cook? Well, that's from, me going to my practice and doing all the things I do. And they get that, they understand it, and I think that is helpful and motivating to them too in terms of developing those skills of self-discipline and showing up as a worker eventually. Like, school's your job right now, this is my job, this we all have to go do our jobs for the day. I think that's a way of showing up as a mom and work as a therapist at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And Erica, to the level of your comfort, but I'm sure your story is helpful for a lot of people. You're a single mom, right? You're going through this thing and you're doing all, I mean, for me, for Jen, we've got help, like
Yeah.
can't even imagine. You're in a doctoral program, you're running a
Yeah.
business, you've got kids, and you're doing this on your own right now. Like, do you ever feel like you're on top of life, or do you feel like life owns you sometimes?
Oh, well, yes, I feel like life owns me a lot of the time, but I'm currently on a 2-week break between semesters, so that's nice. I,
Good.
I do share custody of my children with their dad, and he fortunately shows up as a parent to them about half the time. So, you know, we really are sharing the burden of parenting equally. Um, I think there's more that we do naturally as moms, but I feel fortunate for that. I don't have a lot of family around. You know, it's tough to build a village in 2025.
Yeah.
It
but
is.
you know, I have my way of making everything work, and sometimes that means doing work while my kids are around. And you know, they've made funny observations at times, like, I could tell you're working, mom, based on the face you're making at your computer. You know, or like, what are you doing? Is it time for that? And I'm like, yeah, I've got to, you know, do a few things, and then we can go take the dog for a walk together. I think it's really finding those opportunities in the everyday, the mundane. Like, my son will like to go take the dog for a walk with me, and we'll go shoot some basketballs at the nearby court. You know, it may not be fancy and you know, something that I can brag a lot about, but you know, I fit it in. I fit in those times that we have together. Um, I can't really explain how I do it, but I do it. I make it work.
Yeah. I have to imagine you're just going to look back on this and be like, how did I do that?
I was thinking, like, in, you know, 10, 15 years, I'll be sitting, you know, on my couch having a cup of coffee, and my kids will be hopefully out of the house or at college, and I'll probably be like, huh, I'm so bored. Those were the good times.
It's that like this season of life. I think that that has saved me more times than not. Just remembering like this is a season. This is a season. And I had this like moment when I was at Target back to school shopping with Izzy, and she's like changing, and I realized she's 11 at this point. Like she needs a sports bra now. She's
Mhm.
in puberty. And I almost started to cry because I was like, how did we get here? I feel like I just blacked out. Like they were babies
Yeah.
and now they're here and we're in the checkout line and there's this mom behind me and she's got three young toddlers. And I can just see on her face, she's like, oh my God, just get me through this. The last thing I would ever say to her is, enjoy it. It goes by so quick, you know? But like, I it makes me so sad sometimes. It like hurts my stomach how fast and slow things go as a parent. You know, the day to day can be kind of like grueling, but I'm like, God, this is such a blip on the radar. And like Erica said, like we're going to be sitting in our house, quiet house one day, sipping coffee, and the vacuum lines are still there on the carpet
Yeah.
because our kids haven't messed up anything. And you're like, oh, it the the silence is palpable.
Yeah, it's so true though. As they get older, I feel like the time is slipping. And I used to hate when people would say that to me, but it's so true. I'm
Yeah.
now thinking of things as like we only have a few summers left with the oldest one, and you know, it's pretty wild experience. You want to hold
Yeah.
on as much as you can.
I know. I know. The only thing that helps me through all that is realizing everybody struggles with that. At
Yeah.
our age, there's no person that's like, man, I'm just like doing it all. I'm just got like I got it all figured out. My kids are good and my work is good. I think everybody, especially when you get to, I mean, I'm at 45, right? So like you get to this point where you're like, did I do it right? Am I doing it right? Did I mess this whole thing up? You know, maybe I'm having a little bit of an existential crisis, but that's the piece that I think kids just really bring home for us is like, God, I don't want to mess this up, and especially not for them.
Yeah.
These years do go by quickly, and you know, I think you both just spoke really nicely to that. Like, they just go by fast, and who knows what the next chapters will bring, right?
Yeah. I think the
Yeah,
reality of being a mom boss and mental health is it's messy, it's heavy, it's full of guilt, but it's also full of repair, grace, and growth. So we just have to embrace it.
Yeah,
well said.
the repair aspect is so important, I think.
Yeah.
You know, both at home and in the practice, like being able to make repair when things don't go optimally, or how you would have planned for either your family or um, the therapist that you work with, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I focus on, I love Dr. Becky, but I always take that with me when I'm thinking of something that I'm like, okay, it doesn't need to be perfect. I just need to be present and consistent. But if something goes awry, I just need to repair. Like you said, if it's your business or at home, that's all we can do.
I love Dr. Becky.
Yeah,
She's great.
she is
Well,
great.
well, so what are some things that you guys do? And these can be like either hacks or it can be just sort of tools that you've carried as therapists, maybe that have helped you sort of deal with all the stuff that comes with this. Like we lead an extraordinary life. If you have scaled a company to seven figures, that is not a simple feat. And so if you're going to lead an extraordinary life, it's not realistic to think that extraordinary effort is it linked to that. So you don't get all of that freedom without that responsibility. And so when life is hard and everybody's asking me questions and I get decision fatigue and I go, why am I doing this? I feel like I'm making this too hard. I remind myself that this is not for everybody. And if it were easy, everyone would do it. And so sometimes having a gratitude reset helps me to shift the perspective. And I mean, that's all, I ever did for 20 years was CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Shifting perspective. If you can't change the view, change the perspective. And so it sounds cheesy, but sometimes when I'm so exhausted, I'll think, you get to be exhausted. You get to be in a season of life where it's noisy and everybody needs you and everybody wants to be around you. And you have a very messy, loud house. And some people never got that. Some people would kill for that messy, loud house. So, what helps you guys reset?
I think for me, it's a mindset. And I will catch myself at times telling myself the opposite of something. If you're sitting there and you're doing the dishes instead of complaining and moaning about the dishes, I'm like, I'm so grateful I'm able to do the dishes and have this mound of, we just cooked and had everybody here. And so I just try to really, I think as therapists too and psychologists, we're really the pros, I think, at the mindset stuff. Like we know everything there is to know in that area. So we just have to practice it and apply it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's days that that's easier than others, but I do try to really focus on the good. And just like you said, the gratitude, like what's going well. And I personally hate when people complain and I hate negative thinking, when you're around someone. So I try to say that to myself in my head. Like I wouldn't want to hear myself if I said that out loud. So I
Mm-hmm.
have to change it.
Yeah.
How
I
about you,
think
Erica?
I think for me, I really appreciate what you just shared, Jen. I think that fits with like so much of life being in the mundane, the washing the dishes, the running the loads of laundry,
Yeah.
you know, dumping all the laundry on the bed and folding it. But I think my grounding or my way of resetting is being outside often. I mentioned taking the dog for a walk, whether it's me solo or with one or two kids. I think taking the dog for a walk is a nice way of grounding and connecting to what's around you. Um, I happen to live like on the edge of a big park in DC, and another favorite thing to do is use the Merlin app. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a bird watching app. So if you download it, you can hit the record button and it picks up all the bird songs around you. So
Oh,
you
that's
can,
awesome.
yeah, you can see what birds you're hearing in real time. And sometimes I'll put that on in the backyard or on a walk and just kind of marvel at all the different birds and wildlife around me. Um, but I think that also comes from having been trained as a nature informed therapist. There are so many aspects of nature that can ground us and reorient us when we feel stressed or overwhelmed. So that really works well for me.
For me, I love the sun. I feel like even in the wintertime, if I try to walk up at sunrise, take a walk, and for me, that just resets everything for me.
Yeah, I think we've, sort of separated ourselves from those natural rhythms of life and the planet with all of
Hmm.
our technology. So, you know, tuning yourself into the rising of the sun and the setting of the sun can be extremely grounding as well.
Yeah.
I like that.
It reminds me of that meme that you see going around. Like one day you're in a field dying from alcohol poisoning, and the next you're wondering if that's a marble-headed warbler.
That sounds fitting.
I actually have one of those bird. I forget what it's called. It's like a bird feeder, but it's an AI. So it's like, oh, you have a house finch that stopped by to say hello, and you can press it, and
Oh,
it's like a video of a finch on your bird feeder, and you get to like see all these different birds that have stopped by.
ooh, that's
It's
Wow.
cool.
fascinating. Yeah,
I need one of those.
it's so neat. Bird Buddy, that's what it's called. Bird Buddy.
Ah, bird buddy.
Yeah, but I agree with you guys. Like, I mean, there's got to be. I mean, Eastern medicine talks about chi and how it's realigned
Hmm.
when you get into nature, and more and more as we get older, all my friends, I'm like, what do you do right now for exercise? And they're like, I just go on a nature walk. I'm like, yes, the nature walk. It's underrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
It
It's
really
a
is.
nice reset. All right. Well, so if today showed us anything, it's that being a mom boss isn't about balance. It's about constant pivots. Some days you're a CEO. Some days you're a chauffeur. Some days you're just trying to keep the Wi-Fi working long enough to survive a Zoom call.
True.
So we want to hear from you guys. What's one thing that you're letting go of this season? You can find us at Off the Chair Podcast on Instagram. And you could also DM us or drop it in the comments so we can share. Let us know what's one thing you're letting go of this season. We want to share and normalize this together because none of us are doing it all. And that's the point.
So see you guys next time.
All right.
Bye for now.